It was it's preordained in the ethos, I suppose. We grew up in a very creatively free environment, so we kind of grew up around a lot of vinyl and music, and not just music, but film and literature and things like that. So we'd always been playing music, and Josh had always been singing, and I had always played guitar. And it wasn't around high school when I started bringing buddies over to play, and I had a buddy who played drums, and Josh would come in and sing, and Sam started coming in and playing bass, and that was the first formation of that. And yeah, the foundation, and we brought in Danny a year later after the drummer really couldn't keep up, and that was Greta Van Fleet. Yeah.
It was quite romantic. What are we doing? Phaser effects? No. It was. I like that sort of Americana sort of coming about. It's one of those. I don't know. It's almost touristy, but in a way, it's very progressive. Her name was Greta Van Fleet. Now, we took at the end because we just assumed that people were going to have problems with the end, and we'd just call it Greta anyhow. So it was like skipping that whole ordeal, I'm sure. But it was like, let's see, what was it? The original drummer, Kyle, would come around when we had like the first show we ever played was Autofest in Frankenmuth, downtown. So it was like, we had gone through so many names. And then at some point, it was just the day before we were going to have our first show and be out in the streets with all of those people out there, and it was playing, it was like, as I walked through, it was like, what are we going to do? And then, Kyle came back from lunch with his grandfather, who dropped him off for practice and said, I've got to go chop wood for Gretna, because it's like fall time, and so he goes, Gretna Van Fleet, that kind of thing. That's a cool name, right?
And we're from Michigan, so that's what we do. We cut wood all the time.
We chop wood up there, yeah. It gets cold. We fit in. I guess writing music is a natural process that is always going on. We like even walking down the street, something can be going through your head.
It's good. It's like in the way that we write, there isn't really a formulaic way that's done. It just songs kind of write themselves when they come. So like I remember I was lying in bed and I was just kind of pondering through some melodies and stuff, and I came up with a riff. It was like 3 a.m. So I'm like, all right, now I had to get up and go and put it down. Yeah.
You can actually see Jake in his sleep sometimes doing this.
I've been told.
I'm not even kidding. He does that in his sleep. It's phenomenal. It's like, wow, if I was doing what I was supposed to do on stage in my sleep, nobody would get any rest at all,
Yeah, I don't think that we ever fight about that stuff. I mean, we're all quite versed at playing, many instruments. So Sam can play, keys, and he plays drums and bass and guitar, and I can play a little bit of keys, drums, bass, guitar, and none of us have ever taken a lesson in our life. So yeah, we kind of autodidactics. Yeah, we kind of had to teach ourselves, and so yeah.
Well, I always loved writing, but filmmaking was initially my passion, and I've made more short films than I have written songs. When I was young, see, in my younger years. No, it was kind of before this really took off. That every single day it was always writing, or we were trying to cast, or we were working on the next project, or scoring a film, or editing something, a bit, and blah 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 blah. For some strange reason, I could never mix music and film together because I would never score any of my film with any of our music.
I think the one common place that we all meet is the blues, and so Elmore, being a guitarist, I think for me I would be Elmore James and Muddy Waters, and a lot of the roots stuff that we grew up listening to, and we all kind of have varying influences.
My favorite blues artist is Howlin' Wolf. Something about that's magical.
Lightning Hopkins.
Everybody kind of could almost go off into their own category as musicians in this band, And Jake seems to be more rock and roll foundation. If I said rock without the roll, he'd get all upset about it. It'd be like Sam loves jazz and has a lot of that influence, I think, is where he gets off on the keys a lot. And Daniel, I think, is very folk. Oddly enough, as a drummer, it's Americana. Like, but when he's on the guitar and writes, that's kind of what comes out. Yeah, and I like world music. I really like the sounds of you know, big choruses or choirs and drums and things like that. As a singer, I really appreciate Sam and Dave, Wilson Pickett and Joe Cocker and those guys, because it's like that was the foundation of what made the rock and roll vocal sound like that.
Well, I don't think that we ever particularly planned to be on any label, you know, because of the approach and the kind of music that we play, and so we were kind of wanting to build it from the bottom up and kind of do it on our own. But Jason Flom from Lava Republic heard our music, and you know, we had a call from management and said that Jason Flom and Lava Republic Records want to sign you. So we said, you know, bullshit. So we had a FaceTime with Jason Flom, and he didn't want us to fly us down there or anything. He wanted to just sign us, so he just signed us. It was great, and the deal was great, and we went through an entertainment lawyer, and we agreed to do it, and yeah, it's been awesome.
As we go, more things keep happening, and you know, we sort of envisioned a kind of success that we would have, you know, just because that's what we you know, being ambitious about what we're passionate about was going to be, you know, having a vision. But it wasn't like, then when it starts really happening and setting in and going far beyond your expectations, then it's like a magical thing, you know.